All right, good morning, everyone. It's 10 o'clock, so we'll get going with today's webinar. Just as a quick introduction, my name is Devin Schoening. I work for the Council Bluffs Community School District. I've worked in Council Bluffs schools for, I don't know, 17 or 18 years now. The last 10 or 11 of which my role has been as the instructional technology lead, program lead for our district. And our district has, we're a one-to-one Chromebook district, which means, we now have about 9,500 kids, each with his or her own Chromebook. Teachers have their own. So my work has been around how to promote learning experiences and how to help teachers and kids in those learning experiences where technology can enhance the learning. So that's really been my role. This is actually a webinar that I led for teachers in my district recently. Being out of school right now, I created, quickly put together a digital learning webinar series, and this was one of the episodes that I led for that series. So it is really about recording your screen. How do I use a couple of tools on my computer to record screen, but not only record screen, but record myself and do some other things. So it really does kind of look at this from the lens of an educator. But as I tell the teachers I work with all the time, what we're really looking to do is to be able to make the tools do what we want them to do, and not necessarily just what they say they do. So that's really what we'll do today. If you have questions at any point along the way, please don't hesitate. I certainly want to try and address as many of those things as I can. If there are things that you really want to know how to do or that you're curious about, I would prefer that the session is led by a lot of those questions versus just what I have decided in this webinar, both for the teachers in my district and you all. What I think is important or things that we can do. So these will look at some innovative ideas, but we'll also take a look at a specific tool, maybe two, depending on the time, to do that. So if you have questions, again, please go ahead and send those my way, because I'd be happy to answer those. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Then I do have some slides that we have used that I've used in my sessions. And we'll kind of start with those. You don't need that. We use, in district, we use Google Meet and not Zoom. And so we will, I kind of have to give my teachers some reminders about muting themselves and being on camera and those things. So I didn't have to have that for you guys. So really what we're looking at today is this idea of recording yourself recording more than your screen, using some tools. Screencastify and Loom are the two that I will spend most time on today, and really Screencastify will be the one that I'll spend the most time on. Loom is another tool that does something very, very similar, and I am going to share about that as well. But Screencastify is probably the one that we will spend the most time on. Screencastify is simply an extension that can be added to the Chrome browser. So if you're using the Chrome browser on any device, so whether it's a Chromebook or a MacBook or a PC, whatever device you're using, if you're using the Chrome browser, you can get Screencastify and Loom from the Chrome Web Store, and then they will be extensions. And I'll demo that in a bit here too, to show you exactly how that works. But those are the two tools that we'll really look at. They both are very, very similar. Up front, I'll tell you the reason that I'm spending more time on Screencastify than Loom. And it's going to sound a little strange, but I actually like some of the features in Loom better. But what Screencastify really does for us is it integrates perfectly with our Google Drive. So when we record videos in Screencastify, they automatically save into our Google Drive. And Google Drive is an ecosystem that we work in a lot. So most of what we have is shared in Google Drive. And so it makes a lot of sense for us to be able to have that integration. Loom has some other features that allow for kind of password protection of videos and some time stamping within a video that are kind of nice. But again, we kind of typically like to work inside of our Google Drive if we can. So that's the two, and again, we'll spend time on each. So With that, just a real quick agenda of kind of what I hope to do today. We've done a little bit of welcome. I kind of shared a little bit about what we'll talk about. I will share in a minute about why this matters, why I think it's important to do this, especially from the lens of an educator. And then we'll look at some example uses. We'll see how to use the tool. If we have some time and we have the wherewithal to do it, maybe we'll try a little collaborative practice of this, and then we'll answer any questions. You know, the practice time and sharing questions was really something I did for mine in district. We'll see if we have time, if that's something that we want to go after. So that's kind of our agenda for the day. So what we're talking about again are utilizing tools like Screencastify and Loom, you know, and they work really well to do things like record what's happening on your screen. But we also want to make sure that we can look at that and like, how can we record ourselves, or how can we can get some things accomplished by using those tools. And then why this matters, you know, from a school perspective, video does allow us to connect with our kids and engage kids in a way that maybe we can't simply with text, or simply with documents, or simply with audio. So video allows us to connect and engage in ways that we probably can't otherwise, and really an opportunity for us to be more efficient in our work. And for us, you know, for teachers and for principals and for kids, we're talking about things like feedback and giving directions, and you know, some of those really important things that are happening on a day-to-day basis, being creative. You know, there are ways to use these tools to do that. So it matters because it is another way for us to engage. It is another way for us to connect with our kids. So here is kind of a rundown of the things that I would like to look at today, and what you can do with these tools. The first one is probably the most common use of a tool like Screencastify or any screen recorder. So Screencastify is the one I'm choosing. Loom we'll talk about. You may have used something like Screencast-O-Matic or Camtasia, or QuickTime on a Mac device. You know, lots of tools that are out there that allow you to record screen. Screencastify and Loom are ones that allow you to do that online and with no product download, that you're doing it right inside the browser. To give directions and announcements. Oh, so the first one was tutorials and demos. So it's where we show how to do something. We record our screen, we show people how to do something, how to get to a tool, how to utilize something online, how to create something using a particular tool. So those are like tutorials and demonstrations. A second thing that we can do, we'll look at, are directions and announcements. So how do I provide video or oral directions for students, you know, maybe announcements for our class on a day-to-day basis. Lots of ways to use that for directions. Feedback, so providing feedback to students on what they're doing, providing feedback to a staff if you're a principal. You know, obviously outside of the world of education, we can also give that feedback. We can also have that communication that's done, you know, using video. Something that our teachers use a lot are anchor charts, things that hang on walls to help us, you know, help our kids as they're working. So if they need to refer to an anchor chart for a you know, a way to do something, or for reminders about something, we do that. Video is a great way to do that. So we can think differently about how we create and share those anchor charts. Things like right now, like reading a book and sharing that. So if I read a book on video and share it with a classroom, you know, that's something that we're seeing a lot right now across the country as kids are at home and teachers are at home, and they're trying to provide some sense of connection and some sense of normalcy. So reading a book and recording ourselves doing that, we can certainly do that in Screencastify. Think-alouds, you know, things where I'm using video to provide examples not only for students but for others around what my thinking is as I'm trying to solve a problem or as I'm undertaking a task, allowing my thought process to become visible for others. And then students recording and sharing. You know, we've got lots and lots of examples of where students can use these tools as well. To record their thoughts and to share their thinking and to demonstrate their understanding or their ability to do something. So those are really the 7 things that we'd like to start by looking at, and then we'll kind of see where we go if there are questions. So as we kind of move forward with that, I want to take a look at tutorials and demonstrations first, and make sure and see if there are some things that we can do there. Just a reminder that if there ever are questions, please please share those with me. I will pop back and forth between some different things here, some different screens to show some things. So I'm not always on my Zoom screen right away. So if you have that, please make sure I know. Okay. So tutorials and demonstrations, again, that really is that opportunity to show something that's happening on a screen, right? So I'm gonna play at least a portion of this little video here. I don't know if I might have to switch over. Nope, it's gonna work. So what this is, again, is just a recording. In this short tutorial, we're gonna look at how to get to Google Classroom and how to create a new class. So this is a video of me kind of showing some teachers in my district how to access Google Classroom, a tool that many teachers in our district use, but not everybody. So what you'll see happening there is me in the bottom left-hand corner kind of talking through that, and then everything that's happening on my screen is being recorded. So I'm showing them, I'm giving them a tutorial, I'm demonstrating how to get to Google Classroom, how to create a new classroom once I'm there. And so anything that happens on that screen obviously is going to be recorded. So I can, again, in its most basic sense, this is what a tool like Screencastify does, right? It's recording the screen. And that's why when we look at the title of this session and say it's more than recording the screen, that's true, and that's what I want to get to. But I want to show you this is kind of the standard use. This is one way that people use this kind of all the time, or these kinds of tools, these kinds of screencasting tools. So that's this one, right? This was just me quickly showing my teachers how to access Classroom. It was 1:47 on this one. You know, the sweet spot for these kinds of videos tends to be in that, 2 to 5 minutes as we're recording those. Anything longer than that gets a little tedious to watch. Anything shorter tends to be maybe a little too quick for people to really grasp. So that's kind of what we do here. Screencastify also, the free version gives you up to 5 minutes per video. So in any one video, you can only go 2 5 minutes for the free version. You can pay for Screencastify. I want to say it's maybe $49 a year or something like that. It's not terribly expensive if it were going to be something that you could use, and that gives you a little longer time, and it also gives you some editing capabilities, and we'll talk about the editing capabilities here soon. So tutorials and demonstrations are one. Another way to do that is to look at announcements and directions, all right? So when we provide an announcement for our classes, it might sound something like this, and this is a really quick little video. Good morning, everyone. I hope that you're excited for today's session. Just a couple of things I wanted to say. First off, it's just so good to see everybody in such a crazy time. It's good to see faces. So again, in that video, it's just the person either providing an announcement, hello, good to see you, could be directions for an assignment, could be directions for a task, but I'm just using the camera in this case. I'm not recording my screen at all. I'm just using the camera to record a message to them. Again, there's a way that video connects that text doesn't. And so, it's finding the right balance of utilizing text and video, but sometimes we can connect again in a little different way when we use a tool like this to record ourselves. Again, Screencastify meets this purpose, but there are lots and lots of other tools that do that, obviously. I can record that on my phone, I can record that with a camera. There are lots of ways to do this. This is just a really easy way for us, especially if you're using this, to put it in Google Drive, to share it, to embed it on slides, kind of like this is. And so providing those directions, providing that announcement is a way to utilize that tool. Again, that was a short one, about 1:18. All right. Feedback is another one. Feedback is something that we do pretty regularly. We provide feedback to students. We provide feedback to staff members. We provide feedback, to players in coaching. We give feedback all the time in education. And so there are ways to utilize this again to provide that feedback in a way that either using the screen or not recording the screen or not recording the screen, where we can make a little bit more of that connection, right? So what I would always encourage you to do is when you hear this, imagine getting this same feedback without the video. And how that might fall flat or how it might not resonate in the same way. And so these are two examples. Again, I'm not going to play all of them, but the first one is using feedback with the screen. And what you'll notice on this one is my face is nowhere to be found. It's just my voice. I'm recording a piece that somebody created. It was a colleague of mine that was giving feedback. And so I have their slides up and I'm giving them feedback. So I'll play a quick snippet of this. That you created about how to create locked forms and share it. I think this is a great topic, great subject. So I was looking through it and just wanted to give you some feedback. First, I love all the screenshots. So as I'm clicking through and seeing all these screenshots, boy, that makes it so much easier for people when they are trying to follow along. So having all those screenshots is really. So specifically kind of going through that and allowing them the opportunity to hear your voice, telling them what you appreciate about what they did, or there's a little piece at the end here somewhere where there's a little bit of feedback that's constructive, but I can go ahead and do that, and then we'd have to obviously move all those other pieces. So it was about filling the screen with those images. So not leaving all the white space on the outside of that, not leaving any negative space. So maybe we make that a little bigger so they're easier to see. So that's a video, again, where I just recorded the screen. I was able to click around and show different slides. I was able to record my voice as I was doing that, but I'm not on screen. There's no video of me there. It's just my voice. This one on the bottom is just a little different, right? This is one where we're not recording the screen at all. So for those examples where we don't have a piece of work online that we're giving feedback on, maybe it's just feedback on a performance. Maybe it's feedback on, in this case, it's a silly one from home that I kind of just made up, but maybe it's on a piece of artwork that students have created. So this is a little example of what that might look like. Again, giving feedback to someone, but using Screencastify, but not using recording the screen. To provide some feedback on most recent projects you've created here. This is really great, this is professional quality work, especially like the really bright red lipstick. That's good. The hair doesn't look good. So it's, again, taking something and having a physical, tangible thing to provide feedback on. That again, if that's just in text or in an email or on a rubric or in on a document, that's maybe falls a little bit flat. So that's using that screen recorder, Screencastify or Loom, they do the same things, to record just myself, right? Just record using the camera and record myself, providing feedback. Doesn't have to be screen all the time. We talk about some anchor charts, and this is a very, education specific thing, but wall space in our buildings is filled, lots of times they're filled with these anchor charts. They're filled with resources for kids. And so when we are constantly kind of moving those in and out, maybe having a way to keep those in a digital space for kids is important. And so we talk about a few different ways to do some anchor charts. So this first one, again, has the anchor chart on the screen. We just took a picture of it, put it on a slide, and then recorded. You can see this one has my little video in it again, so I'll play a portion of this. Our story elements anchor chart, the parts that make a story. Remember that every piece is important to complete the story puzzle. So first, characters. So what you'll see is that as I'm using this tool, as I'm using Screencastify to do this, there are some tools in there to highlight, underline, circle, kind of annotate on the screen. And so now I can use this to kind of highlight some of the most important pieces. So when I'm talking about the problem, I can underline it's the main issue or the main struggle or the main conflict that's in that. And so when kids are viewing that, they're able to get, again, it's almost like a little bit of that think aloud that I mentioned earlier. It's letting them in on the thinking behind why we have that, right? Why we're using that anchor chart, why it's important for them to go back to that potentially when they're writing a story, reading a story, analyzing a story, whatever that might be. So that's having that screen, that anchor chart on the screen and providing a little bit of context for it, providing a little bit of thinking behind it. This other one really becomes more of like a video anchor chart, all right? So not necessarily showing something. Remember when we were writing that we want to make sure we refer back to our checklist, the things that we decided are important in writing, right up there. So what this video actually does is it is on the anchor chart or on the slide where the anchor chart exists. So you can see when I say, hey, it's right up there, I just have that on the slide. So when I point, it's behind me on the slide, right? I'm pointing up to it. So it provides me talking about it versus just my voice, right? It's me, then they can click on that video and hear the video while they're looking at it. I don't have all the other tools there. I'm not able to underline and circle and do all those things, but I'm able to kind of place myself on that slide for them. So if I have a Google Slides that have all these anchor charts on them, on each slide I could put a little video of myself that I've recorded that explains why that chart is important, or how they can use it, or the elements to focus on, or whatever that might be. So a couple of ways to do that as well. Again, using the screen, recording the screen, and not recording the screen as well. These are a couple of examples of how we might read a book. So either recording yourself, or we've done some work where kids can do this, and we can work on fluency. So they can record themselves. You know, oftentimes in buildings, teachers don't have the opportunity every day to hear every kid read or work with every kid individually. It's just the way of the world. And so this is a way that we've done in some classrooms where we have some recording stations or recording studios, where kids go to these and they utilize a device that's already there. They record themselves reading with their book, so it's recording them reading. And all of those are saved directly into a Google Drive that's shared with the teacher. So they have access to all those kids reading all the time, so whenever they want it. So if they have a few minutes during the day, if they want to do that at night, if they want to, whatever it might be, they have access to those. And so that's what this first example is, where the book is on there. We took, this is a first grade classroom, a first grade book, and we took and just kind of made pictures on Google Slides so that the kids could just turn the pages on the Google slide and record themselves. Otherwise, if they're holding the book, it gets a little tough for first graders to do that. A lot of times they hold it right over their face, and you can barely hear what they're reading. And also teachers a lot of times want to be able to see the words that the kids are reading as they're reading them to ensure that they're doing a couple things, either reading every word, or to look at, are they inserting words? Are they reading some words differently? So there's a lot of data that can be pulled from listening to a kid read. So here's an example of what that might look like. Again, won't play it all. Good morning. Today I'm going to read the story of the book Baby Hippo. The hippos are asleep down in the river. Can you see Baby Hippo? Baby Hippo. So as I do that, I'm just flipping the pages. And as I flip the pages, I'm reading, and you can see things like, am I reading every word? Am I missing words? Am I using inflection? What's my fluency speed? My rate of reading, my fluency. So there's a lot to be gained from listening to kids read. So that's one way that we do that with kids. If we're doing it without that, so this is without having it on the screen, but this is just holding a book and recording it. Where this gets tricky, you can see it even in this video I do, is like holding the book in the right place. Like, do I hold it so they can see it? Do I turn and hold the book back like I might if I was in a classroom? So this gets tricky. So here's what this looks like. Oops, wrong one, sorry. There we go. Good morning, everyone. Today I wanted to read at least a portion of one of my favorite books. This book is called A Day in the Life of Marlon Bundo. Hello, my name is Marlon Bundo, and so you can see, even as I'm reading, I'm kind of trying to adjust. I'm looking in the camera. I'm also trying to read the words kind of on the camera if you don't know them off the top. So it can be a little tricky to do it this way. But again, for me, this tends to be a little better than trying to hold the book back and have them see it. So, you know, those are a couple of ways to share those, share when we're reading a book. If we want to share us reading a book with kids, that's one way to do it. The one thing I like too is that this way, I know that some people have tried this with their phones, or tried this with other devices, or with other programs, other tools, and the words get flipped. So everything gets flipped because it's a mirror image. This seems to work okay. So You know, we do have to worry about if we're just sharing this with kids, we're typically okay. If we're sharing this beyond, we run into copyright issues for sure. You know, if we're recording ourselves and sharing that for a wider audience, we have to be cognizant of copyright issues. So that's one way that we do that with reading a book, right? So we might read that way. These are some examples, finally, then the last one that we'll really talk about are student examples. And I forgot to share a couple. So I'll talk about those and play the one. So these are kids who are using Screencastify to share back with their teacher. This first example that's not going to play, I have it in another slideshow and I forgot to share it with this account, is a student doing his trumpet practice for his band teacher. So individual lessons or individual practice that the teacher can hear and see, so evidence of it actually happening, but also the ability to give some feedback on that, where they are probably not going to be able to hear each individual kid play every day. So, you know, doing that for band or for music is a really great way to do it. The other one that's on here is I don't have access to in this particular slideshow, is a high school student, a high school science student, talking about the parts of DNA molecules. And so it's a slide with some images on it that the student is going to go through and kind of talk through and share his thinking around what he understands about the parts of a DNA molecule. This middle one here, these are, and if I remember correctly, let's think here, 4th graders, I believe, that are doing some math. And what they're really using is they're doing some dividing of fractions. And so what the teacher wants to see it here is their thinking going through that. So I'm going to play a portion of that. It's a minute 40. I'm going to get to the middle here somewhere where they start talking about the math.
2 equals 12. Just let me say this, and then you say how we figured it out, and I'll say this. 6 people came in the classroom and took 2 12s of name tags. How many name tags did they take in all? Okay, so this is how we forgot.
And so what you'll see is they also have some slides there where they have utilized some drawing tools within Google Slides to kind of like mark off. So they're marking off pairs of 2 here and to see how many they have. So these are 2 kids, they're sitting in the hallway, they just did a lesson as a class on this. This is kind of their go out and practice and investigate this a little bit. And so this is them recording themselves kind of thinking through that. So lots of ways, so and just, you know, I gave a variety here. That's an elementary, the trumpet player was a middle schooler, and the science example was a high school kid. So, you know, lots of different ways for kids to utilize this, and at lots of different grade levels. And again, the 5-minute limit is kind of a blessing. You really don't want them going longer than that for any of this. If they're going longer than 5 minutes, they're probably not doing something right. So it's nice to kind of limit that sometimes. Having unfettered access and for as long as we want sometimes gives us leeway to ramble and not be succinct and to the point. So that's kind of those are some examples of what we've done with student recording. So those are kind of some examples that we've talked about and that we've tried and that we've practiced with. So I would certainly hope that there are some ideas there that will spark ideas for you. Again, whether that's in an education setting or whether that's in a business setting, that you can utilize those tools to do that. What I want to do is spend a little time looking specifically at Screencastify and how to use that. These slides, and I'll try and throw them maybe in the chat or something. You are welcome to go back and look at these slides or have these slides if you wanted to click on them or wherever I can put them that you can access them. They're available for you. And so what I'll do is share some slides that I have here that kind of show the different parts of Screencastify, and I'll talk through them, and then I'll try and do we'll do a live demo of that as well. Okay, so if I come back over here. We've talked about Screencastify being an extension. Here's essentially what it looks like. And what happens is there's an extension or little icons that are up next to the URL, next to the web address. So when you add extensions in Google Chrome, they show up there. They're little clickables. Extensions are things that do something in your browser. You know, they don't take you necessarily to another site, but they kind of do something for you. And in this case, it really is about recording. So the first thing that we do is when we click on the little extension, and it looks kind of like an arrow. It looks like this, a little kind of salmon colored arrow with a camera in the middle. And the first thing we'll do is there are 3 little lines in the upper right, and this is kind of how you access things like your recordings and options and things like that. The one thing that we would recommend, that I would recommend is you know, giving Google Drive access, giving Screencastify access to Google Drive to move videos in there. The one thing that we do have to consider is in school Google Apps accounts, there's unlimited storage space. So we don't have to worry about storage. In private, personal Gmail accounts, there is a limit to how much stuff you can store in your Google Drive. Something like 15 gigabytes is where we sit. So it's not a ton, and video does end up taking up quite a bit of space sometimes if you do a lot of them. So they can be saved. You know, you can save them locally on your device or have them saved in the cloud on Screencastify. You don't have to share them to Google Drive, and you can provide that integration, start that integration at any time. But just know that it's there, and it is handy to have that, have it in Google Drive. But be considerate of your space. Okay, when you get Screencastify again, you get 5 minutes. You can see that there. There's a 5-minute limit in the free version, and so you'll want to just be aware of that. What we have is there are 3 options for you when you record in Screencastify. There's browser tab, desktop, and webcam only. When we use browser tab, that means when we start the recording, whatever browser tab that we were on when we started that recording, it's only going to record what's happening in that browser tab. So if I leave that tab and go somewhere else, it's not recording what's happening on my screen. It's only recording what's happening in that tab. So you can certainly do that. It's a good way if you don't want people to see maybe your entire screen. You know, you can do browser tab and it will keep it there, and that's pretty safe. The second is desktop. Desktop means it's going to record anything that happens on your screen while you're recording. And so if I switch windows, if I switch tabs, if I go to my email, if I minimize that, they're going to see my background, whatever it might be, it's recording everything that's happening on your desktop. And then the last version is webcam. And webcam only means it's going to use your computer's camera, and it's going to record anything in front of that camera. So most times that ends up being people, someone speaking to the camera. But it doesn't have to be. It can be, you know, you can use that if it's a laptop, or if it's a device that turns into a tablet, or if it's you know, even a desktop, you can hold something up and show it. There are lots of ways to record other things. Record a scene, you know, a reading of some kind. There are lots and lots of things that you can do there. But webcam only means it's only recording what's on your webcam. Okay. A couple of other things that we would want to be aware of. This does access your camera's microphone and webcam, and so we want to make sure that we're aware of those things. The first time you ever use Screencastify, it's going to ask you to allow Screencastify to access your computer's camera and or microphone. You need to allow that, otherwise this won't work. We've had people before who have not allowed that at first, and then they wonder why their camera doesn't work for this. And then we have to go into the settings and kind of okay that, because essentially it blocks it in the settings of Chrome. So we would have to undo that to make sure that it would have access. But it does have to have access. We have to allow access for that. You can turn the microphone on or off. So there are videos that I have done in district for our teachers. You know, if somebody has a question for me about how to do something, you know, hey, I can't figure out what to click to get whatever to happen. Sometimes I'll just go record a quick video using Screencastify or Loom. I won't even record my voice. I'll just record my screen and walk them through those steps and send them the link to the video. So I'll turn the microphone off sometimes. But I can also leave it on. So it will have a little slider there for the microphone. If you have an external microphone, you have something connected, it will allow you to select that microphone here if you want to. And then we always do a quick spot check. So next to the little microphone icon on the right will be a little bar that it shows it as you're recording, right? So if it hears sound, it's bobbing up and down. So we oftentimes do that. If that's not bobbing up and down, it's not recording. And one of the worst things that can happen is to record an entire video where you think your voice is being recorded, and then you go to watch it and there's no sound, and the microphone wasn't on or wasn't recording. So we always want to check that out before we actually hit record. You can embed the webcam. So if you remember back to examples that I showed, it means I'm recording my screen, but there's also a little video of me, of the webcam, whatever's happening on the webcam down in the corner. So I can embed that. I can put that on the screen if I want to. I can also turn that off. I certainly shared some examples of that happening as well, where it was just the screen being recorded, my voice is in the background, but it's not video of me. Same thing here. If you have an external webcam connected to your computer, you can select that camera here. Again, that works really well for things like if I want to show something on the table, or I want to show something on the wall, having an external webcam is a good way to do that, and those are pretty inexpensive. So if you wanted to get a webcam to do some stuff like that, you certainly could. I talk to teachers all the time about using something like that to essentially create a little like document camera at home. So something where they can show a desktop, or show something where they can do some writing or work out a problem, use it as a whiteboard space. External webcams will allow you to do that a little bit. So the microphone and the webcam we have to consider. If you see down here, it says show more options. The next slide just really shows what those options are. There are 2 of them. When you click record, the default is it will give you a 3-second countdown before the video starts. So if you want time to switch over and start a presentation and make it full screen, you can change that if you want to either 5 or 10 seconds. 3 seconds is the default though, and that tends to be enough time, honestly, but you can change that if you want. And then there are some drawing tools, which I mentioned briefly on one of the slides. The drawing tools are available. You can turn those off though. So if you know you're not going to use that and you don't want it on the screen when you're recording, you could certainly turn those off. The default is for them to be on, but you can go in and turn them on and off as you wish. And then when we're ready to record, we've got all the settings the way we want them. We just go ahead and click the blue record button, and that will get us going. Again, when I do that, it's going to give me a countdown, however many seconds I've decided, and then we will start recording. So this little GIF that is playing really just shows that process. And if I am sharing my entire screen, that's the process that it'll go through. I'll click the little extension. I'll go down and click the blue record button. It's going to pop up a window that says, what do you want shared? I click my screen that's in the middle there that I want to share, and I click the share button. And as soon as that happens, it will give me my countdown and we'll start. So I click it, and I click the blue share, and then it's going to start sharing my screen, and then I can start recording. So the extension is kind of where we start. We make sure it's recording what we want it to record, the screen we want to record, and then we get going. These are really just those drawing tools or the other tools that are available, the on-screen editing and visibility tools that you can use in Screencastify. So this is that drawing tools that would be visible, that you can make visible or not on your slides. And so here are some things that we have, and just kind of start in the upper left-hand corner. This is a tool that when it's on by default. When you click with this tool, your cursor will have a highlight around it, so it's easier to see. This will make it so that it's easier to follow. Sometimes when we're giving screencasts, it's hard to follow where the mouse is, so that kind of helps with that. The second tool makes your cursor invisible after it's inactive for a couple of seconds. And so if we have something where the cursor can just kind of get in the way, and the screen's just going to be sitting, I'm not going to be moving it very much, it will remove that, and it will kind of just hide it. The third tool makes a red circle when you click. So anytime you click on something when you're recording, there puts a little red circle around it. Again, it's just to help us, help people as they follow, to know where the mouse is and where you're clicking. Otherwise, you have to do that kind of by speech. I have to speak and let you know where I'm clicking. I'm clicking up here on the blue button, instead of it will kind of highlight that for me. Along the bottom, on the left, if you're recording, you can pause and then resume. So if I'm going along and I need to pause because for whatever reason, I need to check something, I need to get another document in front of me, I just need a break and to get a drink, you can pause that video and then resume the video. The second one over is to get back to normal cursor after using the annotating tools. So if you want to just kind of get back to a normal tool and not a pen, this will get you back to just your normal cursor. The pen tool, which is the next one over, it allows you to annotate on some web pages. Most web pages it works, but not all. And so that pen tool will allow you to draw. The next one is obviously eraser, and we know what that does. And then the X will remove that. All right, it will stop that. Okay. This little video, which has no audio, but this little video just shows how the drawing tools work, right? So when I grab that drawing tool and I can draw pretty easily, and again, I can also do that where I'm highlighting things or circling things, annotating, and then I can change the colors. I can grab the eraser and erase all that. It doesn't have to be on a whiteboard or a white space. This is just how I demonstrated it. But those are the drawing tools. And again, you can do that again, like I said, on a regular web page and highlight some text and underline some text. But it's a great way to be able to showcase something or annotate while you're doing this. When you're done recording, what we do is we go back up to the extension, which I kind of have up here in the upper right-hand corner. You can see the little icon of that. It has a red dot in it, which indicates that it's recording. So when I'm done recording, I click that. And when I click that extension, these are the options that I get. It says that currently recording is at 1 minute and 29 seconds. It says my desktop is being recorded. And then along the bottom are the things that I can do. The red button on the right, or the square with the red kind of rectangle around it, if I click that, it stops the video and saves it. And it'll take me to another page that'll show me the actual video. So that means I stopped recording, but I'm keeping it. The pause button is next to that. So again, I can pause and resume. The little kind of circle with an arrow at the end, that means restart. So if I don't like the video, I can click that and it will delete the recording that I've done and start over. And then the trash can obviously throws it away. I've recorded something, it's not good, I don't even need to look at it, I messed up in the middle, whatever, and I just delete it. So I'm not even gonna save that video, I'm just gonna delete that video. So those are the 4 options we have when we're recording, when we're ready to be done recording. I couldn't remember if I had this slide or not. So this just indicates all of those pieces that I just told you about. If I click the red button, or the button on the right that ends the recording, this is the screen it takes me to. It takes me to a screen that has my video, and it will immediately start syncing it to Google Drive if you have that integration on. So there will be up here by the blue copy shareable link, that will actually be a little red bar, and it will kind of go across to show progress as it syncs to Google Drive. Once it's there, then obviously we can share that. There isn't much editing that can be done in the free version of Screencastify. What I will show you is that down here on the timeline of this video, there are little scissors at each end. So the one thing that you can do in the free version is you can trim it from the beginning and the end. Lots of times what I end up finding myself doing is trimming from the end, because there's that little time when I'm done recording and then I'm going up to the extension, I'm clicking it, and I'm stopping the video. I usually cut all that stuff out and go back to where it would be a more kind of seamless ending and not saying we finished the video. Same thing happens at the beginning sometimes. If I don't quite get some slides up, or if I don't quite get to the place where I want it before the recording starts, I can trim that at the beginning as well. So I can trim a little bit from the beginning and the end, but that's about all the editing that you can do in the free version. In the pro version, the premium version, you do have a little bit more editing power. I can insert multiple clips. I can put some text on top of slides, although it's not great. I don't love it. And so there are some things that you can do there, and obviously your videos can be longer. When we get into that video, what we do first is in the upper left-hand corner, we can click it to give it a title. Otherwise, it does title it as untitled, and then has like a date and a time, like a timestamp. I can't tell you how many videos I have in my Google Drive where I just kind of forgot to do that or didn't do it, and I've got a million untitled videos. So you want to do that pretty immediately if it's going to be a video that you're certainly going to keep, or that you're going to go back to, or that you're going to share. I would go ahead and put that title in, but it's just like a Google Doc, and then I just click where it says has the untitled and the timestamp, and it will allow me to change the title of that. Again, the scissors will allow you to trim from the beginning to the end. You can trash the video, so you've watched it, you thought it would be okay, it's not. You can click the trash can, that will delete it. If you have the Google integration on and it gets done syncing, you'll get a blue link that says copy this shareable link. Copying that link allows you to then paste that link to whomever you want to see it. So long as you've changed the share settings in Google Drive so that they can view it. There are other options to share as well. If this is an education setting and you're using Google Classroom, you can share the video directly to Google Classroom. You can publish it directly to YouTube. You can get an embed code, which will allow you to embed it onto a website if you've created a website. You can send it an email. Just be aware that 5-minute videos and under should be okay, but emailing video is not always easy, and it's kind of slow and it's not great. And then you can generate a QR code from this. So you could have a video that you create a QR code for it, you post that up somewhere, and people can view it via the QR code. You can also download the video to your computer, and you'll have that actual file. So if you wanted to download this video and then use it in iMovie or in WeVideo or somewhere that's like a video editor, you could totally then upload that video in and edit it and do all kinds of things with it. Okay, so that's really the end of the part of this that is kind of showing Screencastify and showing the way in which kind of some screenshots of that working. What I want to do really quickly then is kind of show you a demo of it happening live. And then I'll see if there are any questions, and if there aren't, I'll spend a few minutes showing you Loom, and just because I want you to see another option, and it works really well too. So here's what Screencastify would look like if I go to my, if I just stay on this page here. Let's see what else I have open. I'll just stay on this page. When I come up to my extensions, and again, my extensions are next to my web address, my address bar, and I come over to the Screencastify one. Again, looks like an arrow pointing to the right. And I click that, you'll see the options pop down for me. So these are the options that I have. And if I go ahead and say, yep, I'm going to record my desktop, and I'm going to use the webcam, I can see the microphone is working because it's bobbing up and down here. I'll show you where those options are. So all of those options are there. This show webcam preview is something that was available in my private Gmail account, my personal Gmail account, not my school one. And again, that does exactly what it says. It will show a webcam. It'll show a preview of what the webcam is seeing. So I'm going to go ahead and click record, and you'll see that my webcam comes down here on the right. The screen comes up and says, what do you want to record? I'm going to say the entire screen. Here's my entire screen. Now share that screen. You'll see the countdown is going to start here in just a second. 3, 2, 1. And now everything that I do is going to be recorded. And so the video of me in the bottom right, and if I come down here and change some slides, you'll see that those will change. I can grab my little highlighter here and do some highlighting. I can do whatever I need to do here. I can delete that, whatever we want. You can see that my other little tools that are down here, wipe screen clean, don't want that, okay. I can take the webcam out, which is actually a new feature. Or it's a feature that's available in the personal account that was not available, that I haven't seen in my private account. So that's kind of nice. So I can turn that on or off. When I'm ready to be done, again, I come up to my extension. I click the little, I can see it's recording because it has a red dot. The counter is still going. I've got my options here. I'm going to click stop. So when I stop again, remember that saves this video. It has it going. In the upper right-hand corner, you'll see that my video is syncing to Google Drive. As I come up here, it says untitled with a timestamp. I'm going to say this was a do space webinar demo. And now that gives it a title. I have all these options for exporting. I can trim. You'll see that the end of this video here going. Yep, I don't want that. I'm going to go back to where I didn't do that. and trim it. Come up to my extension. When I'm ready to be done again, there we go. So now it won't let me save this trim until my Google Drive sync is done. And so that sync is just about done here. I can see that it's just about done. So I'm gonna let that finish up, and let me see here. Yeah, so Ethan asked, how do you add an extension in Google? Good question. I have that open here, so let me show you. So when I'm in my Google Chrome browser, I just go to the Chrome Web Store, and this is the Chrome Web Store, and so it's chrome.google.com/web store. I always forget that, so almost every time I just go to a new tab, and I just type in Chrome Web Store, and it brings it up for me and say, oh yeah, this is where I want to go. So the Chrome Web Store is where we go, and once you're there, you just search for it. So I'm going to search for Screencastify. And what will happen is it will be right here. Mine says rate it because I've already added it. Yours will say add to Chrome. And so I'll add that to Chrome the same way I would with any extension. Yes, this webinar be uploaded to the YouTube page? I believe so. At least that's what they told me ahead of time. So I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, I believe so. Okay. Oops, I didn't want to do that. So that's how you get the extension, all right? And the extensions, again, go right up here next to your address bar, right next to the Omnibox, what that thing is called. And so those extensions will be here, okay? So that's exactly how Screencastify works. Now, just real quickly, this is Loom. So Loom is this little guy, kind of looks like a little aperture almost, I think, of a camera. Same kind of deal here, is that if I just search for Loom, it will pop up. It's this guy right here, and you'll see that I have that, so it's there. So you can add that. Mine says rate it. So webcam is running for Zoom and all screen being shared with Screencastify includes it. Yeah, and so it's using my webcam for all of that. I've actually had multiple recordings going on at once. I'll be recording with Screencastify and have a Google Meet on and actually have another one open. I do daily office hours, virtual office hours for school right now. So I have actually a Google Meet that I'll fire up, that it starts at 11. That I'll probably be a couple minutes late too, but that's okay. So yeah, it will record all of that. At least mine does. And I've done that on my Chromebook. I've done that on my MacBook. I'm on my iMac at home right now. So yeah, it's recording kind of all of those things. Yeah, good question. So when I click Loom here, I'm just going to show you this. I'm not going to go through everything. So Loom, some pages they don't record. I'll go back to this because it will record this. So I'm going to click here, and so you'll see that Loom looks very much like Screencastify. I have a lot of the same options. Screen plus my webcam, screen only, or camera only. This is where you can say desktop or current tab. So all of this is very similar, it just looks a little different. You can see my microphone audio here. I can turn that on or off. Here's my microphone source. You know, so all of that. When I start recording in Loom, same window pops up. What do you want to share? I'm going to share my screen. Counts me down, 3, 2, 1, and you'll see down here in the bottom left, this is where my options are. I don't have some of the drawing options, but I can pause the video. I can say, yep, that's the video I want. I can stop the video. I can change my camera settings, so I can use my webcam if I want, turn that on, and then have that also here, right? So I can turn all that on. I'll make that a little smaller. And then I'm going to finish that recording. What you'll see is that it goes through a very similar process to what Screencastify does. Now I'm going to go to the Loom page where my video exists now. And here's my video that you'll see. I can copy the link. This doesn't share it, like I said, to Google Drive. There isn't that Google Drive integration. But what I have right now is just a link that I can share with anybody. And right now, anybody with the link can see it. You'll see that the options here, I can make it public so it's searchable. I can also just make it so anybody with the link. And this is one of those things I told you about, that I can add a password. So I can have a password in this. So when I share the link with somebody, they have to put in the password to see the video. Or maybe they have to find the password to see a video. Maybe it's like a breakout of some kind. I do have some settings on here. And again, the last little thing I would talk about with Loom is that when I play here in the bottom left, I'm going to mute that. Okay. So at any point when somebody watches this and they watch it inside of Loom, they can actually get to different parts and, you know, give a thumbs up. And so that little thumbs up will show for me when I see that. I can add a comment. I like this piece, and I can post that, and it posts at 2 seconds. So when I share this link with somebody, I can actually have them do this so they can click right on 2 seconds, and it takes them directly to that part of the video. So like I said, there are some things that I really like about Loom that I can't necessarily do in Screencastify. But again, the integration with Google Drive for me is kind of why we go that route, as opposed to pushing Loom more. We've used Loom a lot more because we used Loom a lot more in the past because we could do any length of video. We didn't have a 5-minute time limit. But again, then I had to find a way to get it into Drive or find a way to get it to whomever needed it. So it was a little dicey. I didn't have the perfect answer in either space. So that's Loom, and again, you get that the same way from the Chrome Web Store. Type in Loom and you add it. With that, that's all I have. Are there any other questions that I can answer about utilizing these tools to record your screen or record yourselves? What kinds of things would you want to see, or do you have questions about? Okay, let's see. Perfect. Well, if there are no questions, we will, let's see, how would you save a Loom video to Google Drive? So what you would have to do is you would have to download the video. So you did have an option in Loom to download. So you download that video, and then you go to your Google Drive and you upload the video. So when you're in Google Drive under Create, they change it all the time on me. Under New, it says New, it used to say Create. Under New, one of the options is File Upload. So you would upload that file to your Google Drive, and that would work just fine. So you'd have to download it first from Loom, upload it into Google Drive. Yeah, good question, Vicki. Anything else? Okay. Well, if you have questions, let's see, one thing I will do before we're done here, and just for those of you who are still here, I'm gonna copy and paste in those slides that I used, so that if you would want to go back to those, you can get to that. Let me just grab it quick, make sure I'm getting the right link for you. I think that should work. Okay, get back to Zoom. Paste. Okay, so I'm going to paste in that link, so you're welcome to kind of take a look at that. And if you have questions, you can always reach me. I'm happy to help. So, hope everybody has a great day, and stay safe.